Hey there, guys. Welcome back. This is day 3 of our challenge, and I'm very excited to talk to you guys today about how to filter out the toxic personalities when you're doing a hiring process. This is one of the primary reasons why we even do a job interviews, because we want to make sure people are a good culture fit for your business. So grab your workbook if you haven't already downloaded it, then comment below saying, I want the workbook, and my team and I will make sure that it gets sent to you by email. But let's get diving right into this. So the first thing I wanted to actually share today is my own story as an employer and as a leader of a team. When I started my very first business, I was just 14 years old. And I have to tell you guys, I was a very different person back then. I was completely introverted. I was a total bookworm. I just was buried in a book all the time. And I had lots of friends because I was a dancer. And so I took dance classes about 9 hours a week back in those days. So I had a lot of dance friends, but outside of the dance world, off of a stage, I was super shy and introverted. And so when I started my business, I was cleaning houses for my parents' friends. And at one point when I was about 17 years old, my dad said, you don't have to do all the work yourself. You can hire it out and just, pay them and then keep a little bit for yourself. And I was like, this is a great idea. Why don't I recruit some of my friends? So I recruited one of my friends to start going out on jobs and cleaning houses for me. And I did the marketing and the sales, and I still had a couple of jobs myself, a few of the gigs on my side. So I was entirely new as an employer. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was very, very proud to be a boss, and I was trying to kind of also be a good friend to this chick. And I just completely botched it. Like, she basically just got away with anything she wanted. I was way too scared to set boundaries. I had no idea what I was doing as a leader. And she really just didn't respect me. I have to say, she was a friend beforehand, which is always a tough situation in the first place. I was shy and introverted. She was not. She was kind of a little bit more popular at school than I was. So it was just a hot mess, right? Fast forward a couple of years later, I was running teams. I was now I had moved up or whatever, and I had like several teams of cleaners underneath me and, trying to get these people. Some of my employees didn't speak proper English. They were either from Mexico. I had one girl from Japan. So they were like English as a second language. Some of them were not even fully legal in the country. So they didn't have their papers. They were not fully literate. And so it was very difficult sometimes to teach them what they were supposed to do. We had a language barrier. They weren't able to just study something. If I handed them a job description manual, they weren't just going to read it and go do it, right? So I had to demonstrate everything myself. I had to take them into a bathroom, show them how to clean a bathroom, take them into a foyer, teach them how to clean marble, terrazzo, tile, wood flooring. There's all these things that you have to know in order to be really good as a cleaner or a janitor, right? It's actually a whole technology behind this. And so I was trying to train my team, trying to lead my team, trying to get them to show up to jobs on time. And it was just a hot mess. And it didn't really change until I started to go to school to become a life coach. And I started learning all of this stuff about the mind, about, us as people and how we operate and how we react to things, and understanding the psychology behind leadership really started to make me a better leader. And one of the first things I learned was the importance of setting boundaries. Okay. Back in those days, someone asked for time off, I'd just be like, yeah, sure, whatever. If someone was late, I'd be like, oh, can you please not be late? And I would just get annoyed about it rather than being effective. And I think there's a lot to be said for understanding the difference between letting your temper get away with you or away from you and actually using, upset or using the frustration you have as a way to motivate the employee to change their behavior, right? These are two very different things. In the one sense, you are letting your temper get away from you and you are not in control, your temper is, right? In the other sense, you're using emotional intelligence. You're looking at the emotional state of the person in front of you and understanding their emotional state. And from that emotional state, giving a more emotional response, right? That one, you're very much in control, and it's easier to guide and control the employee to change their behavior. So back in those days, I didn't know the difference, and I would just kind of get frustrated or annoyed. The reason why I'm telling you all this is because I think it's very important when you decide you're going to hire for the first time, or even if you have an existing team and you're now going out to hire a stranger, it's important to set boundaries and to learn something about leadership before you dive into this world. Because sure, you can do it the way I did. You can make a bunch of mistakes and lose a lot of money over many, many years until you finally get it right. But that's not what you came to this challenge to learn, right? You came to learn from my mistakes. So please take this with all of the love in my heart, but you need to actually learn to be a good leader before you can hire good staff. The best employees are going to be the ones who are attracted to a really good boss. So you have to be that good boss. And part of being a good boss is setting firm boundaries and holding them very sternly. I don't mean that you have to be cruel or mean about it, but you do have to be very firm sometimes about, here's what your expectations are as my employee. Here are my obligations to you. Here's your obligations to me. Here are the boundaries, the sides of the road, and we're not going to go left, we're not going to go right, we're just going to go A to B, right? So really setting that for yourself and having firm boundaries. These days, obviously, I'm a lot more relaxed about hours and things like that because I have an online business. So when people come to work for me, they can work very flexible hours. But back in the day, if I said we were going to be at a client's house at a certain time to clean that house, we had to be there. Back in the day when I had my wedding business, if I said we were going to show up 2 hours before the wedding to set things up, we had better be there on time, right? So you have to be a good boss, or in order to be a good boss, you have to set strong boundaries for your employees. And I wanted to share a quick resource with you guys if you're interested in learning more about how to get better at leadership and how to really lead your team and troubleshoot their behavior occasionally. This is a really great resource I have on my website that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay, that being said, we were supposed to talk today about how to filter out the type of people you just don't want working for your business. So I want to share a quote with you guys. This is from the Mayo Clinic website, talking about antisocial personality disorder. Now, I have to just preface this with saying I do not believe that mental illness is a actual physical illness. I very much believe that there is a spiritual aspect to all of us, and that antisocial personality is not a disorder. You can't address it with drugs or medication or therapy. You have to actually just exclude such people from your company. Okay, so please don't take this as like being stigmatic against people who have mental illness. This is mostly meant just to look at it from purely a business standpoint. So it says antisocial personality disorder, sometimes called sociopathy, is a mental disorder in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and ignores the rights and feelings of others. People with antisocial personality disorder tend to antagonize, manipulate, or treat others harshly or with callous indifference. They show no guilt or remorse for their behavior. So it's very important to understand that there is a certain percentage of society that has these qualities, okay? It's about 2% of society that are actual sociopathic. And if you invite them into your business, if you allow them to come onto your team, you are going to see that it is being destroyed from within. So it's very important to actually learn the qualities of an antisocial and filter them out using your hiring process. It's very easy to do. In fact, I actually have personality tests that I use with my clients where when you're hiring, you can just have them fill out these 3 tests and email them into me and my team. We will grade them and get them back to you within 24 to 48 hours or 1 to 2 business days. And these tests help to detect an antisocial personality. So it's very important to learn the qualities. Like I said, Mayo Clinic has some resources. I have some great resources if you want to reach out to me and I can send them to you. But getting to know how to spot toxic personalities is probably one of the most important skills you will ever learn as a business owner, especially if you're a creative, because those of us who are artistic or creatives, we tend to attract toxic personalities because they see in you something that's worth destroying, right? And because of the nature of their mental illness, they are absolutely attracted to good people. Okay. So this is something very, very important to learn as a business owner, is how to filter out such people. Inside the workbook, I did share some of the red flags that I look out for. So I wanted to share these with you guys today. Again, please apologize. I just want to apologize. Please forgive me for my sniffly nose today. But okay. So here are some of the red flags that I look for when I'm doing a hiring interview. First of all, any statement that the employee or candidate makes that shows a disregard for right and wrong. I know that this should be obvious, but sometimes people kind of laugh it off and go, oh, he was probably joking. You know what? For maybe the person is joking and it was just an inappropriate joke, but do you really want to risk your entire business on the maybe of a joke, right? So when a person in a job interview, if you ask them a question and you're asking them to tell you a time when they did something good for their employer or whatever, you're asking some kind of job interview question and they disclose that they did something wrong and they show no remorse for it, that is definitely a major red flag and something you want to watch out for. Number 2, catching the applicant in a lie. Again, there's just never, ever, ever a good reason to lie on your application, or especially in the job interview. That questioning process, if you catch them out in a lie, don't hire that person. It's just a complete red flag. When the applicant or candidate is being callous or cynical or disrespectful of others. So, you should ask them questions like, how do you feel about your last position? How do you feel about your last boss or your current boss if they're still employed? It's okay to not like your boss, but in the job interview, if the person is being really cynical or disrespectful or just nattering and having nasty things to say about their previous employer, that is definitely a red flag to watch out for. Okay, next one is failure to consider the negative consequences of behavior or learn from them. So the person says that they joke about consistently doing something bad and not trying to make up for it. If you can't name ways that they've tried to make up the damage for the things that they've done in their life, or if they made a mistake at work, they don't show any remorse for it. Again, these are definitely big, big red flags that you'll want to watch out for in that job interview. And there's questions you can ask, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. But there are questions you can ask that will help to dig in and see, how does this person deal with stressful situations? How does this person deal with it when they make a mistake? Are they remorseful? Do they actually try to make up the damage? Okay, next one is speaking in generalities when relaying bad news, criticism, or hostility toward others. So when the person does have something bad that they need to share, or they have something negative to say about a past employer or about past colleagues, etc., do they speak in generalities or do they speak in specifics? A person who can actually get along well with others tends to not generalize bad news. So if they are speaking broadly and just going, well, everybody there hated me, or, no one there liked our boss and things like that, these are definitely big, big red flags. Next one is a history of theft, criminal record, or fraud. Now, I am all for giving, people who've actually made mistakes in the past and have restored their life. Like, I'm totally down for giving them a second chance. I'm not saying you should never hire a felon, someone who has like a bad record or, used to be a drug addict or something like that. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying that it is something you should be aware of. So doing background checks, especially if you're in an industry like I was in, where you're going into people's homes and you're sending your team into people's homes, definitely you would not want to hire somebody who has a criminal record in order to do that, unless there's going to be direct supervision of that employee at all times, or some kind of, just making sure that you know who you're sending into your client's home, right? That same thing would apply if you have like a mold remediation company or a construction company or any kind of service-based company that's happening in the client's home. You definitely want to be doing background checks. Okay, next red flag is altering to worsen circumstances or communication. So sometimes you will ask somebody to, in the job process, right, in the interview process, you will ask the applicant to share a story or share a time when something happened. This is a very normal thing to do. But if the applicant is sharing the story and is obviously embellishing it, trying to make it sound worse than it was, that is again a red flag. And lastly, difficulty in completing projects or tasks. So it's a good idea to do a working interview in most cases. If you can't, then I recommend using the group hiring interview process so that you can get everybody there at the same time and give them tasks to complete. If it's not appropriate for them to actually call clients, or you're concerned about putting them on the front lines of your business, then I would recommend having essays to complete or some other type of task. One of my favorite tools and a filter to use in the hiring process is to have the person fill out have the person write a collections letter to a client. So essentially, you're telling this applicant, hey, here's a pen and paper. I want you to write a letter to Mrs. Smith, whatever, with the idea behind it that Mrs. Smith is overdue on her bill. How would you handle that? So you have them write the letter as though this person, they were trying to collect money from them. And it just gives you a good sense for whether or not the person is literate. Can they actually read and write? And then also, like, how professional do they sound when they're writing to your clients, right? And whether or not they have difficulty completing that task or completing that assignment. Do they leave it half done, or do they actually, can they get something started, changed, and stopped? So these are the types of red flags I would look out for in the hiring process. I think it's very easy to come up with questions that will help you to filter those things. I hope this has been a helpful lesson to you guys. Setting boundaries, really filtering out the toxic personalities, knowing those qualities of an antisocial or sociopathic person so you don't let them into your business. Practicing EQ, really being able to observe the applicant in front of you and spotting what their emotional state is. And then lastly, asking questions that filter out these red flags. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week. Or excuse me, I guess we're going to talk tomorrow. Okay, talk to you then. Bye.